Hi everyone, my name is Lane McKittrick, and I am excited to be co-teaching this course with Dr. Mueller this semester. Um, as you may have probably read in my intro, I come about this from the parent perspective, the family perspective. And so I've been to my share of IEP meetings. I have four boys. Two boys are deafblind, and one of my children has some learning disabilities. So I've been to my share of IEP meetings and had many IEP teams. I've had good meetings and bad meetings. So I'm happy to share my experiences. If you have any questions at all, I'm happy to share. So just let me know. So let's get started. This module is about collaboration and partnership. So first off, it's important to really start off talking about family systems framework. I really like this first quote from your reading. Families are like a mobile. Whatever happens to one member affects all. So, we know that, a lot of times families, something will be going on with one family member, like they might be really stressed about something. There might be a child with disability that they're, trying to work through some issues. And what really happens to one member affects the whole entire family. So it's really important to understand that. So in regards to families, we want to think about family characteristics. What's the size, form, cultural background, socioeconomic level, and geographic location. So all of these really impact kind of how the family works together and what that looks like. Individual member characteristics. So is there anyone with an exceptionality, either a disability or maybe someone is gifted in the family? That might come into play. Coping styles, coping with stress, depression, problem solving, health status. Many times there might be some family members that need to go to a bunch of doctor's appointments, and that can really affect the family. And then there's also these unique circumstances, hardships, homelessness, things like that. And so sometimes you might not know what those unique circumstances are. So it's just really important to be empathetic and really just understand that families have different characteristics. Individuals in the family have these characteristics that are unique. And oftentimes families are going through and have these unique circumstances. Every family has diverse characteristics. And all of these things above impact how families cope, make decisions, handle stress, etc. Families may have to cope with a complex set of mixed emotions regarding their child with a disability. So I know for speaking on my own behalf, there's many times that a family goes through, oftentimes families grieve when they find out about a diagnosis of one of their children. And so, they go through all these different emotions at that point in time. But there's also these mixed emotions that happen at each transition. So every year, sometimes, just getting the IEP team and the teachers up to speed. Often I know my kids have a hard time at the beginning of every school year. There's stress that they go through, and they're building that new relationship with a new teacher, and so that's stressful. There's mixed emotions that the students are going through, which then the families go through those mixed emotions as well. And so sometimes, I know for myself, my son will come home and he'll have a good day, and sometimes it'll be a bad day. And so there's just a lot of emotions that go on as family members. And sometimes, like for myself, I'll have a lot going on, and a lot of stress. And so sometimes I can't cope as well as I can with some emotions. And so that's why it's really important for families to have other families to talk to and a set of professionals on the IEP team that they know are there to support them. So I'm not going to read through too much of this. So this is the definition of partnership that you'll see in your reading. There are benefits to both families and professionals for partnership together because we're all in the business of education together. We all have the same goal, and that goal is to make sure that the student is successful in the classroom and at school. The student, professionals, and families all have that same goal. There are student benefits to partnership and improve student outcomes. So partnership is really important. It's important that everyone's working together for that common goal. The 7 principles of effective partnership is what we're going to go over this week that you'll read in your readings. Communication, competence, commitment, advocacy, equality, respect, and all of this goes into trust. We'll talk about those next. So first off, communication. So there's quality and quantity of communication. So first off, are you conveying the right type of information to families? Are you getting them what they need? What type of information do they need? And how are you communicating it? What system are you using? How frequent? And I recommend talking with families early on in the relationship about what's their communication style and coming up with a communication system that works for you specifically for that relationship. Some families may prefer texting, email, in person. It just depends, and just really understanding what works for them. Sometimes, families can only talk in the evenings after work. How frequent is that communication? Do they like to have a notebook back and forth between school and home every day to know exactly how did the day go? Or do they only want to hear about problems? So it's really just coming up with a specific communication plan for that relationship. We know that there's 5 actions for effective communication: be friendly, listen, be clear, be honest, and provide and coordinate information. So you're probably already thinking about how you can do those things. Professional competence. So what we learned in the previous module, IDEA talks about highly qualified teachers. And what that means is you're able to provide an appropriate education for students, all students, and you want to continue to learn. So be a lifelong learner. So no one's expecting anyone to know everything about a disability or anything in regards to education. So, but to be willing to be a lifelong learner. So if you don't know something, ask parents, ask other team members, find a way to do some professional development to figure that out. Just the important thing is just continuing to learn. Set high expectations for the students. Make sure they're making sufficient progress, and helping parents to be realistic. So sometimes parents have unrealistic expectations about what's possible for students, and sometimes they have too low of expectations. So really just helping those parents be realistic. In regards to competence, do have an understanding of the student's unique needs, and what can you learn from the parent about those needs. So again, I think families really appreciate when they really want to know that team understands their child and what their child's needs are. And again, I mentioned it before, but if you don't know the answer, are you honest about it? Do you try to find out the answer? So respect. First off, honoring cultural diversity, thinking about curriculum content, for instance, inviting families to share with the classroom about their culture or with yourself. Affirming the strengths of the student. So don't just go into a meeting or a discussion talking about weaknesses or challenges, because the family lives that, they hear that all day long. They want to hear really, what is the student, what are the positives about the student? What are they doing well? And that comes to treating students and families with dignity. Regarding the child as a person rather than the student with a disability, how do you address the family? Does the family prefer first name, or do they want something more formal? Are you really doing eye contact, providing eye contact with the family members when you talk to them? Really having that empathy, really having that thought that knowing that the families can trust you. And so having that eye contact helps with that. Seating arrangements. Not coming into a meeting, and if you come into a meeting, sit next to the family. Don't just make an environment where the family members are sitting on one side of the table and the other professionals are sitting on the other side of the table. Just really thinking through how you would feel. Put yourself in their shoes. And understanding, like I mentioned, focusing on weaknesses can cause families to be sad, frustrated, and defensive. And all of this can impact communication. Commitment. Be sensitive to the emotional needs of students and families. Be available and accessible. Many families talk about they love how professionals go above and beyond. Um, but also that goes hand in hand with understanding boundaries. So I know as a family member, I really appreciate when the teachers give me their cell phone number and say, it's okay to text me after hours. If your son is frustrated doing homework and you're pulling your hair out, feel free to text me and just ask a quick question. And just, I don't use it very often, but it's just nice to know that it's there. And I feel that that professional is going above and beyond. And it just builds that really positive relationship with that teacher, for instance. So an example at an IEP, parents can become frustrated if they don't feel that the professionals are committed by not attending the IEP meetings, or if they come in and out of a meeting. So I know that I've had times when, I'm really excited about an IEP meeting and I get there and there's only one person there. It's like, well, where's everyone else? Oh, well, they couldn't come. So if something happens, just communicate with the family member in advance and just let them know. And just be respectful. Understanding that the family member's time is also important, just as important as your time, and understanding the impact of those actions. In regards to equality, I think this one is really important. So making sure that you have shared power. Oftentimes, IDEA says that parent participation, is mandated per IDEA, but parents oftentimes feel like they're not equal members of the team. They feel like decisions oftentimes aren't made together. It's not shared decision making. And sometimes when this power over relationship, what happens when you aren't equal members is conflict occurs. So it's really important to get everyone's feedback, including the family members, as you make decisions for what to do. And foster empowerment. Help families take action to solve problems. So make sure that they understand you're there to support them. Find out if they need information from you or what they need in order to solve a problem or work through something. Provide options for families. Don't be inflexible and absolute. Be creative and flexible. Don't back families in a corner and only offer one alternative. So if a family comes in with an idea, but you've never done it before, listen to it and, just be honest and say, gosh, we've never done that before. So I'm not sure, what it would take to do that. But, tell them that you are thankful that they shared that with you, and just don't be inflexible. Try to be creative when possible. Advocacy. Help them to prevent problems. Don't pass the buck to someone else. Be a good partner to families and students. Keep your conscience primed. Be alert to opportunities to advocate. Kind of just recognize what's going on with the student in the classroom, at recess, and be alert to ways that you can advocate both for the student and families. And a way to do that is to put yourself in the other person's shoes, in the student's shoes or the family member's shoes. What are they going through, and just being aware of that. Document problems as you see them. Don't just provide general information, provide evidence about the nature and the extent of the problem. Form alliances, having that all in this together mentality, and then also creating win-win solutions. So trust, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, trust is the foundation of effective partnership. So all these things that we've talked about previously in this lecture all come back to trust. So there's a few ways here that I've listed that you can build trust, and those relate to the 6 principles that we just talked about. Exchanging information openly and honestly, being skilled in educating the child, when you honor a family's cultural and other values, going above and beyond, shared decision-making, and advocating for a family and child's rights. All of those things build trust with families. And it's helpful to be reliable, use good judgment, treat everything with confidentiality, and trust yourself that you know what's right. So I hope you've really enjoyed the readings this week. And you'll also be reading the first chapter of the dancing book. And I look forward to getting in and diving into some of those case study in the next module that comes out of that book. So again, have